You step onto the stage, the lights blinding you, and the eyes of the audience piercing through the darkness. Each footstep echoes like a drumbeat in your chest. Your palms are damp, your heartbeat reverberating in your skull. And yet when you speak, when you look around, everything slows. The silence becomes deafening. You can feel it, the gaze of every single person in that room. Every shift in their posture feels like an accusation. Every glance feels like it's measuring you, judging you. You start to wonder, is there something on your face? Did you make a mistake? It feels like the whole world is watching you, dissecting every move, every gesture. But here's the unsettling question. What if that's not true? What if those eyes, those imaginary eyes, aren't really there at all? Why does this happen? Why do we feel so exposed in situations where no one's really paying attention? Why does our mind exaggerate the significance of every little flaw, every minor slip-up, as though the world is watching and judging us for every mistake we make? This is not just an illusion of the mind, but a psychological phenomenon with a name: the spotlight effect. It's the belief that we are the center of attention, that everyone is watching, judging, and scrutinizing us, when in fact, they are probably not paying attention at all. But why does this happen? What causes this distorted perception? It's easy to dismiss these feelings as simple anxiety, but the spotlight effect runs deeper. It's tied to a primal, almost subconscious fear of social rejection and failure. For centuries, humans have been conditioned to fear judgment from others. In small, tight-knit groups, being ostracized could mean survival risks. But in today's world, where our interactions are more complex and our relationships are far less direct, that ancient fear still lingers in the shadows of our minds. It's why we feel like we're always under a spotlight, even when the room is dark. The disturbing history. In 1998, psychologists Thomas Galovich and David Savitsky uncovered something unsettling about the human mind. In their now famous experiment, participants were asked to wear embarrassingly outdated Barry Manilow t-shirts and walk into a room full of strangers. Before entering, most participants were convinced they'd be silently judged, stared at, and remembered. Some even felt genuine dread, heart racing, palms sweating. But here's the twist. When researchers later asked the people in the room what they noticed, only a tiny fraction remembered the shirt at all. Most didn't notice. Others forgot within minutes. This wasn't just awkward psychology trivia, it exposed a hidden flaw in human perception. We don't just think people are watching us. We feel it deeply and instinctively. And that feeling has ancient roots. Our ancestors survived in small tribes where social mistakes could mean exile, or worse. Being watched, judged, and accepted wasn't optional. It was survival. So the brain evolved a hypersensitive alarm system for social attention. Fast forward to today, and that same system still fires, even when the danger is a harmless presentation or a bad outfit. The threat is gone, but the fear remains. The scientific explanation. The spotlight effect exists because your brain treats your experiences as the center of reality. When you make a mistake, your mind zooms in on it, replaying it in high definition. This is called self-referential thinking. Your brain assigns extra importance to anything connected to you. Here's the problem. You assume others are running the same mental playback. They aren't. Neurologically, social exposure activates emotional threat systems in the brain, especially those tied to rejection. Your body reacts as if something serious is happening. Tight chest, flushed skin, racing thoughts. Logically, you know the mistake is small. Emotionally, your brain treats it like a public disaster. The twist? Everyone else is trapped in the same loop. While you're worrying about your flaw, they're busy worrying about theirs. A real-world case study. Sarah is about to give her first major presentation. She feels exposed, like every movement is being evaluated. When her voice shakes, she panics internally. When she mispronounces a word, her brain screams they noticed. Afterward, she braces for feedback. But it never comes. No criticism, no whispers, no judgment. Her coworkers mention the content, not her nerves. Some even say, "You did great." The unsettling realization hits later. The spotlight she felt so intensely never existed. It was never on her. It was only in her mind, burning bright in a room where no one else was looking. The twist in application. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because this isn't just about presentations or embarrassing moments or social anxiety. This is about your everyday life. Have you ever replayed a conversation hours later, mentally dissecting every word you said? Have you ever felt your body tense up the moment you realize someone might be looking at you? Have you ever edited yourself in real time, mid-sentence, mid-gesture because you suddenly felt seen? That's the spotlight effect tightening its grip. It doesn't arrive like panic. It seeps in quietly. It convinces you to monitor yourself constantly, your tone, your posture, your expressions, like you're performing for an invisible audience that never actually reveals itself. Your mind becomes both the camera and the judge. And the cruel paradox is this: while you feel exposed, everyone else is trapped in the exact same illusion. They're replaying their own conversations, criticizing their own flaws, reliving their own awkward moments. This creates a psychological stalemate. Millions of people convinced they're being watched by other people who are too busy watching themselves. In the modern world, this effect has been supercharged. Social media didn't create the spotlight effect, it weaponized it. Every post becomes a performance. Every silence feels like rejection. Even when no one reacts, your brain assumes judgment is happening somewhere just out of sight. The spotlight no longer turns off. It follows you home. Over time, this constant self-surveillance reshapes behavior. You hesitate before speaking. You choose safer opinions. You dull parts of your personality that feel too loud, too strange, too risky. Not because anyone asked you to, but because your mind believes exposure is dangerous. The spotlight effect convinces you that mistakes define you, that embarrassment is permanent. But the truth is colder and strangely freeing. Most of your worst moments evaporate instantly, forgotten by everyone except the one person who keeps replaying them, you. But here's the darker turn. What happens when this illusion doesn't stop at self-consciousness? What happens when the feeling of being watched intensifies? When neutral glances feel loaded? When laughter feels directed at you? When silence feels like judgment? This is where the spotlight effect begins to mutate. It bleeds into social anxiety, paranoia, and even narcissism. Different paths, same root belief. That you matter more in other people's minds than you actually do. Some people collapse under the weight of this belief. They withdraw, avoid attention, disappear quietly to escape judgment. Others do the opposite. They chase the spotlight relentlessly, curating every detail, controlling every impression, terrified not of judgment, but of being ignored. Both are prisoners of the same distortion. And here's what makes it truly dangerous. Your brain never tells you when it's exaggerating reality. It doesn't whisper, "This fear isn't real." It says, "Pay attention, this matters, protect yourself." The illusion feels logical, necessary, even smart. So the next time that pressure creeps in, that sensation of being evaluated, measured, silently judged, pause and ask yourself one question. If everyone is watching, why does everyone feel so afraid? Because once you recognize how easily the mind manufactures judgment, you start to notice something more unsettling. Not just about anxiety, but about perception itself. About how unreliable it is. About how often the human mind turns inward, builds a courtroom, and puts itself on trial. And once you see that illusion clearly, another question emerges. One that leads even deeper into the dark mechanics of the mind. And that is why you need to watch the next videos.